Hey everyone, before we get started in this episode of the baseball podcast, I have to make fun of myself. Tom, you can just listen for a minute if you'd like. So,
Well, you know what? I'd like to weigh in personally.
by all means.
All right, so let me tell you guys a story, from my perspective, okay? We shoot all these great podcasts, right? All of a sudden, as I've mentioned before, it is a real flurry of activity here on the baseball podcast here at Baseball Podcast HQ, many say. And we do all this great work, we talk to these great people, and I'm really feeling it, I'm really vibing with it. And the way we do it is because we use Zoom, not paid. We use the free Zoom version. We do it in like 45-minute like sections, and then like Ethan will do one, and then I'll do one, and I just send it over to him, like my portions of it. Okay. So we wrap it up each time, pack mine up, shoot it over there. I'm like, dude, we're good. We're good. What could possibly go wrong? So I get I get a phone call, a fateful phone call from my boy Ethan. And he goes, okay, so I got good news and bad news. I'm like, all right, sounds good. You know what? I'm glad. And he's like, so I'll lead off with the bad news. Um, I don't have any video from any of the podcasts that I recorded on my computer. I'm like, you're right. That is bad news. So, yeah, you guys are going to receive this news the same way. The bad news is half of the video for the podcast we're about to put out is gone forever. It's gone forever, Aaron Hernandez, many say. But the good news, and I received it, I was told the good news similarly. The good news is that we still have the audio. So, for my half, the part that I recorded, you'll see video. For Ethan's half, the portion that I did not record, you will be looking at whatever still image he decides to stitch in there. So
So, well,
that's
right.
the situation.
So, so for the Phillies one, I'll just put up our logo. I don't know what else to do.
I
Um,
just put up like a Phillies logo on like a gravestone.
well, well, for the Greg episode, it works out perfectly though, because he sent me over a bunch of his paintings. So I just
Okay.
put those up, give the audience a visual.
Okay.
And really it worked as intended. So yeah.
Yeah, we were
So,
kind of going to do that anyway. So, there's that at least.
so I'll tell you exactly what happened, and we don't have to make this long, but my computer gave me this message the other day, right before we recorded with Greg, and it said low, like disk storage low or something like that. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll delete some stuff. So I
Damn.
went through, I deleted a few things, and I kept moving. Then we recorded with Greg, and the first one that I had recorded no problem, and then the second one that I had like recorded, and then when my computer went to like download it from Zoom, it said like it couldn't download it, there wasn't enough free space. And I was like, oh, no problem. So I went and deleted a few more things, hit the button to start the download again, and nothing happened. And I was like, good. So I remember I immediately called Tom, was like, good news, it's not downloading. It might be gone forever, but I'm gonna try. So I called Apple Care, which, by the way, if you have an Apple product, just call them up. They're the greatest. So I call up Apple Care and I was like, hey, I was hoping you can help me with this. I recorded this Zoom meeting. It says it's ready to download and that I cleared enough space. It just won't work. And she's like, okay. And then they did one of those things where they're like, all right, we'll share your screen. And then it was just click here. How about click here? All right, click here, click here. And they're in like the guts of the computer. And I have no idea what any of this stuff means. But eventually it was like, it was really strange. It was like it was trying to open it through the Zoom app, but you had to go into this like sub app within Zoom. I didn't understand it, but it's called like transcode, I think. And
Okay.
I didn't understand it. But anyway, the wonderful lady at Apple Care talked me through it and it started downloading. And I was like, perfect. She waited on the phone with me till it downloaded. I pulled it up, video, audio, perfect. And I was like, great. So I was like, so how do I avoid this in the future? Do I just delete it? And she goes, yeah. And then she pointed out, she was like, you're doing all these podcasts on iMovie. You're deleting the files from your computer, but you're not deleting them from iMovie. Sorry, my dog's snoring in the background. But she went, you're not deleting them from
Hey
iMovie.
man, that's what you get noise canceling for. You got this. I
Well,
don't
I don't
hear
have
it.
my earbuds in because we're just doing this real fast. But so
Unreal.
she was like, "You're not
Unreal.
deleting the files from iMovie, so they're still taking up space there." And I was like, "Oh." So I was like, "All right, moving forward, I got to do that." And then the other thing was she was like, "Just because you like move it to trash, you still have to clear stuff from your trash. They're still taking up space." And I was like, "All right, this is annoying, but okay, whatever." So while I'm on the phone with her, I'm going through and I'm finding all these old episodes, like Donovan Benoit was in there, and like Andy Brown and stuff was in there, and all these old episodes that I don't need the files anymore. They're already up. We're still in there taking up space. So I was like, oh, okay, no problem. So I go through, I just deleted like all the videos. And I didn't think to keep the videos for the two episodes that we had just recorded.
Oh, heartbreaking.
So
Heartbreaking.
so the way that Zoom downloads for some reason, and this is wonderfully beneficial now, but it's strange. It'll every time it downloads onto my computer, it'll do like a Zoom folder for like, like whatever that day's date is. And then you'll click on it, it'll have like the audio, the video, and then a couple other things. I don't remember. So the audio file was still there, no problem. And I could pull it up and it would play. There was just no visual. And the video is just gone, it's lost. Nothing I could do about that. So I kind of like thought about it and I was like, well, this is annoying. And that means half of the episodes won't have video, but I still have the audio. It's a podcast. I would assume most people are going to listen and not watch. And also like what am I going to do? Like call up Greg Kreindler and be like, "Hey, you want to have that whole conversation over again and pretend we're talking about it like
Yeah,
anew?"
how would you like to reenact the
Yeah,
conversation
exactly. So I was
again?
like, all right,
You
I'm just
know?
gonna go with it. So anyway, so that's what's going on. I'll just put this. I think it's only two episodes that'll be effective, but whatever ones are, I'll just put this like disclaimer at the beginning of it so everybody knows what's going on. And
Are we posting the 50th episode special? Is that coming?
yeah, I got to make sure that that's intact. But yeah, if it is, I'm in.
Okay,
So
it's a
anyway,
very special uh
that's what got Sean spread.
surprise 50th
So I
episode.
believe I believe our Phillies episode will be number 48, then Greg will be number 49, and then the 50th. So
For
off.
those of you who, you know, for those of you who are the baseball podcast super fans, I believe that this is going to be listed as like episode 42 or something, but we have unnumbered episodes and we're counting those. So,
Yeah, because it's one of those
50th
things where if we
episode.
if we wait to get to episode number 50, it's gonna take forever. Let's just do it.
Yeah,
So
we're going to be all different.
enjoy these
And
episodes of the baseball podcast.
welcome back to the baseball podcast. I would say it's probably been a day or two since we podcasted. I only have a completely different setup. I had to buy a new cord for my microphone. I have new headphones now. It's really, I would say that, it's remarkable how all of that happened in the past 24 hours.
An entire MLB season has come and gone in the time that we've since
Yeah.
podcasted.
And you know what? We have a lot to talk about because we're going to be talking about that. Ethan, before we get into, you know, the MLB season and the way it ended, uh, is there anything coming up on the docket? What do you have on the schedule for us that
So
sounds
coming up for
impressive?
us,
I don't
we
hear you.
will.
There you are.
You hear me now?
I hear you now.
Coming up for us, we will be having on Greg Kreindler, a baseball artist who I think is like remarkable. He's got kind of a following. He does like portraits. He paints them. We're gonna have to talk to him because I don't know anything about art, so I don't know exactly what to call him. But he's a baseball painter, and he's amazing. He does incredible work.
Yeah,
So
for
he's gonna
those of
come
you
on the
who
show.
like the Andy Brown episode, that would be a
Yeah,
can't miss it episode.
yeah, he's on. His work is incredible. So we're gonna have him on. We're gonna have Sean on again to talk. Some Premier 12 is coming up, so we're gonna be talking that with Sean. You What else do we have going on? Do we have anything else on? Oh, we're gonna be debuting a new game.
We
I have a
are.
friend named James who I've known pretty much my whole life. Hasn't been on the show before yet, but Tom knows him, and he will be coming on. We'll get into the whole story later, but he showed me something that turned into a baseball game that we started playing. So more on that when we have him on. But that's an episode we'll be doing.
It is
On
pretty
that,
cool that a decent number of our guests here on this podcast are like, hey, and coming up next week on the baseball podcast, My buddy.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, Garrett asked me if we could do another Phillies episode soon, so we should. I'll hit up Jim and see if we can do
Well,
one.
I know when
Um,
we can do one.
well, which brings us to today's topic. May I just
Yeah.
dive into it,
Yeah. Oh, wait,
Tom?
really quick. Before we do that, I'm clipping out. Before we do that, we do have a very special 50th episode that we're closing in on that we filmed
We
like
do in
6 months
February,
ago. But you know what?
but it features Sean Spradley.
Yes, and it's timeless. It's not like we were talking about anything topical.
Yeah,
We
it's
might
not
have been,
topical.
but generally it was not topical. So that will
Yeah.
be released at some point. I think we're like getting there.
So
So,
it's confusing because this will be like episode 41 or something, but we also have some unnumbered episodes in between there, and I'm just gonna make it our 50th video. You know what I mean? Like our 50th piece of content is when we do it. I'm not
yeah.
waiting to get to episode 50.
Does the
So
highlight reel count? It
yeah.
should.
Well, I don't see why
Okay.
not. I think we're at like 47 or
Oh,
something total
oh,
videos. So
get
we're
the
almost
countdown
there.
started.
Yeah, so we're almost there. Um, but anyway, let's dive into today's topic, Tom. There's no getting around it. We're Phillies fans. Everybody knows that we're Phillies fans.
Right.
And
Except
as
for,
Phillies,
well,
hmm,
no. That's
okay, as Phillies fans,
I was gonna make a reference, but you know what? That's mean.
okay, as Phillies fans, we are accustomed to a certain amount of despair, shall we say, right? So when I grew up, I was born in 1997, and I was 10 years old when the Phillies got good. I guess they were okay in 2006. They started to get things together, but I wasn't really watching
Right.
baseball then. I kind of like, and I
Well,
liked
they didn't
baseball.
make the
Like,
playoffs in
yeah,
2006, so
like
you
I
know.
liked baseball. I liked playing baseball, but I wasn't watching MLB really until 2007. Coincidentally, I didn't like hop on the bandwagon. I just so happened to start getting into baseball that year. I was of a certain age that it
Right.
started to appeal to me, I guess. So, so anyway, so 2007 rolls around. I become a huge Phillies fan. Go to a bunch of games. I remember I went to a game. This is random, but I went to a game with my mom. We got free tickets from McDonald's, I think, and we sat in the
Oh,
nosebleeds.
dude, wait off the French fry thing.
I think that's what it was, but I might
Oh,
be wrong.
wait, you actually
But
won something off that?
I think so. Either that or my mom was just really nice and bought me tickets to the Phillies game.
Yeah, your mom lied to you. She was like, "Hey,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won this on the French fries at
No,
McDonald's."
I think it was that, but I could be wrong. Like I remember I won Sixers tickets at school, which is like kind of a waste because I didn't like basketball at the time, but I went and that
Right,
was fun.
yeah.
Um,
That's
those
like
were like
fun to
fun.
give to somebody, you know.
No,
Hey, you
I
want to go
actually
see the
went. I went with
Sixers?
this girl from my church. She was really cool. But anyway, um, we're getting off topic here. I started to
Yeah,
get into the
that's
Phillies in
true.
2007 when they were really good. And then I got super into it, watched them, go 7-17, take the division from the Mets, and then win the division and then get smoked by the Colorado Rockies. But it was an honor to be there. It was kind of like one of those, like, it's just good to be nominated. You know what I mean? And then
Right.
2008, they got an amazing run, win the World Series. And then here's where it comes back around.
They do
2008,
another late season like steal the division from the
yeah.
Mets
Yeah.
run, by
I
the
remember
way.
they won the division by like 2 games or something. And I remember they had one day off. Like game 162 didn't mean anything. They locked it up on game 161.
Wait,
So
wait, can we rewind to 2007 real quick? I do want to do a quick detour here because you know who put the dagger in the Mets on the final game of the season?
I know who it is, but I want you to say it.
Well, I know this guy, okay?
What's his name?
He's a big four-armed man. Um, unfortunately, I don't have the soundboard available at the moment, but I do know that his name is Dan Hook.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So yeah, okay. So yeah, going forward to 2008, yeah, the
Okay.
Phillies.
So 2008, the Phillies take us on a magical ride. They win the World Series. And in fairness, they probably were not the best team in baseball that year. Would you agree? We don't
No,
need to get off
they
into
weren't
it.
even the
But
best team
like,
in the World Series. The Rays were better. I just had this debate with a Rays fan at work, and it's the
I don't know
Rays were
about that, but
better.
we can get into that later. The point is they were not heavily
Next
favored to win the
podcast
World
episode.
Series. Yeah. They were not heavily favored to win the World Series, and they won it anyway, right? And then 2009, they come back. They're a better team. They brought in Ibanez. He was an all-star. I think they brought back Placido Polanco to shore up third base. And they
No,
had
no,
Cliff
they
Lee.
Polanco, I think, was
Was he
2010
2010?
or
Okay, but I remember
2011,
like they brought in
maybe.
Cliff Lee. They brought in Cliff Lee. They're a better baseball team. And then they ran into kind of a buzzsaw of a Yankees team. and they lost the World Series. 2010
Mhm.
rolls around. They're even better this time, right? Now they've brought in Polanco. They have Roy Halladay, right?
Roy Oswald,
And
Hunter
Royo,
Pence, right?
yeah,
No, Hunter
no, Hunter
Pence is
Pence
the
is
year
2011.
after. Yeah,
But they get even better, and they lose in the Giants in the 2012, or I'm sorry, they lose to the Card. No, yeah, they
the
lose to the
Giants
Giants in the
in the
2010
NLCS.
NLCS. I was getting mixed up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And that was one where, as a Phillies fan, you sit there, you go, man, Cody Ross, right? I hate that guy. But, a couple of breaks went against the Phillies. They could have been right back in the World Series, and they could have won the World Series, right? They would have faced a good Rangers team, but they could have won. And then 2011 rolls around. The Phillies are hands down the best team in baseball, right? They win like 102 games or something. They have a rotation of Halladay, Hamels, Oswalt, and Cliff Lee. And then, of course, Joe Blanton. One of
No,
the
no,
best
that
rotations.
was Vanimal. That was the year of Vanimal,
Oh, was there
wasn't
a
it?
year of Animal? Okay, but the point
Yeah.
is they have four aces, right? They have they have a rotation, I'm going to say on par with Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, right? They have an unbelievable rotation. They should win the World Series without any problems. And they go in there, and it's a 5-game series. And to be honest with you, I don't remember the first 4 games super well. But game 5 rolls around, and they lose 1-0 because the offense doesn't hit. Ryan Howard tears his Achilles, and it's all downhill from there. And then we go into the Ruben Amaro years of the rebuild, Matt Klentak, and all the rest of it.
All right. Well,
But the
first you have
reason I
the 81 and 81 season in 2012, and you're like,
you have
ooh,
the
uh-oh.
2012 season where they realized maybe we're not so good anymore. And then 2013, they tried one more time in vain to run it back with like Michael Young and stuff, and it just didn't work. And then 2014, they're like, all right, the Phillies are bad. Anyway, the reason I brought all that up was that, Tom, would you say that the Phillies, and I'm not trying to doom into the future, but what has happened is eerily similar to the same downward trajectory that we saw the Phillies go on in our childhood?
Yeah, I mean, you do see a lot of people make that comparison, and like, yeah, you can't say that there's not parallels.
Well,
The
and
only
here's the reason why I
difference
brought. Go ahead,
is
go ahead.
that the Phillies didn't win a World Series and then lose a World Series. That's the only
So,
difference.
so that obviously is the big difference. I think everybody would be feeling a lot better if that were the case. But the real reason I brought that up was not because it's kind of, coincidental, sure, to say, oh, World Series, then to losing in the World Series, then to the NLCS, then to the NLDS. You keep losing one step each way. And this time around, except for winning the World Series, you went from World Series appearance, NLCS appearance, now NLDS appearance, and you keep getting knocked out. But the reason I brought it up was not just because you keep going one rung down on the ladder every year, but because, Tom, the team keeps getting better each year and keeps falling a further step short, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I want to kind of get your opinion on, and I know that we've talked about this to death off the podcast, but I think it's important that we get into this. And by the way, in case anybody doesn't know, this is a Philly centric episode. I guess we should have led with that.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm bringing this up, Tom, is I heard Matt Gelb, who covers the Phillies for the Athletic, on his podcast say this, and I'm not trying to steal. I'm not going to ask you the same question. I'm not trying to steal his idea, but he led off his podcast by saying, "Were we wrong about the Phillies the whole time?" I think the answer is unequivocally yes. I don't see how the answer could
Well,
be anything other than yes.
I don't know that that question is like settled because, the Phillies, it's like the 2024 Phillies, yeah, we were wrong, but the 2025 Phillies, which we're going to get to this, are going to look a lot like the 2024 Phillies. And like the book is not closed on the Phillies at all. But in terms of this year, you know, they went into the All-Star break. I believe it's been a while now, but they had the best record in baseball by like kind of a lot, right?
I think so. They
And
were at least regarded as the best team in baseball,
right. And they had just lost the series to the A's going into the All-Star break.
which
In the
they
last
looked
game,
bad.
yeah, and in the last game they got absolutely incinerated by the A's. They lost like 18-3. Like it was
Yeah,
not
Lawrence
good.
Butler hit 3 homers. I remember.
Yeah, Brent Rooker, who actually rules, also teed off. But like, going into the All-Star break, you're like, all right, you know what? Yeah, who cares? They lost 2 out of 3 to the A's. The A's stink, but like, whatever. They also
Right.
swept the Dodgers right before that, so I'm feeling okay about it. And then they came out of the All-Star break, and they just kind of like kept doing that, and it started to be a very familiar story for anybody who watched the latter half of the World Series in 2022 or the latter half of the NLCS in 2023 was you start to see guys getting fastballs right down the middle and they're taken all the way. And then all of a sudden they get any kind of off speed pitch that is nowhere near the strike zone and they're just waving at it. Like, yep, there it is. It's 0-2 or 1-2, and then you might not see a strikeout in that at bat, but like they're overmatched in that at bat. You're going to get JT like pops out, or, I mean, Castellanos, a little bit of a tendency to swing at pitches that are nowhere near the zone. But spoiler alert, okay, for those of
Nick
you who don't
Castellanos
know,
is not the villain in this
Nick
story today.
Castellanos is not the villain of this episode. He was not the villain of the second half, nor was he the villain of the NLDS. So we are not going to be talking about Nick Castellanos that much negatively. But, he's not immune to what we're talking about in terms of the way the Phillies played. But yeah, so moving on from the hitting, we also saw the bullpen started to become a little bit flammable, to say the least, at times. They found it again, but you saw the bullpen go through a stretch where you were just like, oh my God, dude, like no lead is safe right now. And I don't know why, because every pitcher in this bullpen, except for maybe like Jose Ruiz, is like a shutdown arm. Like, what is happening? But you know what? They pushed through it. They managed to, like, not lose the division. They actually caught a little bit of a heater in like late August, early September to kind of like, at least for me, because I was hovering my finger over the doom button for the entire second half. And then they went on a heater. They won multiple series in a row. I think they beat the Dodgers 3 out of 4 again. And I was like, you know what? I'm feeling better now. That's my Phillies. They're playing the way that I want them to. They got cold again at the end of September, and they're like, they clinched the division, and the
Right.
Phillies
Meaningless
themselves said
games.
this. Yeah, the Phillies themselves said this. Like, we're gonna turn it on, when the playoffs start, when the lights come on. So then, meanwhile, at the same time, the New York Mets are absolutely battling for their lives every single night for the entire second half. And they were the best team in baseball after like June. So, what you're starting to see here is that the Phillies kind of weren't the team that they were in the first half, and neither were the Mets. But it's, a tale of two teams because the Mets got way better and the Phillies were very mid after the All-Star break. But you know what? You look at the matchup on paper going into the NLDS, you're like, I feel really good about this. Like, the Mets are on fire, but you know what? They played the Brewers. The Brewers did not really look like a playoff team going into the playoffs. Just like they lost Yelich. Adames is a huge choker in the playoffs. Their pitching is not what it used to be. So, you know what? They beat the Brewers. They
Well,
got
and
very
the only
lucky
reason they
too.
beat the Brewers is because the Brewers handed Devin Williams a lead, who's elite, and he just for some reason gave it up. And it was like, well, the Brewers did everything right. It just didn't
Well,
turn out for him. You know what I mean?
I also want to point out that the Brewers' inability to do a PFP on a Jose Iglesias ground ball to first base is the reason that we live in this timeline. Um, yeah, I forget who it was, but one of the Brewers relievers just like completely forgot to go to first base for just long enough for them to not be able to make the play. So, and the Brewers lost, and now they go to the NLDS. But again, like, we're feeling pretty good about this. We talked about this many times. And then the series starts. The Mets go down quietly in the first inning, and Kodai Senga comes out and gives up an absolute tank to Kyle Schwarber, like second pitch of the game. And you're like, dude, I've never felt better about this. The
Yeah.
Mets are like an 89 win team. The Phillies won 95 games and they kind of half-assed it for like 6 months. So, like,
Right. The Phillies are, for all intents and purposes, are a 100 win team. You know what I mean?
yeah. So we're feeling good about it. And then the entire rest of the series happened.
Yeah, but the thing is though, this Philly series was no. The Phillies, I want to be clear. The Phillies season as a whole is an abject failure because
Yeah, there's not really
separate
any way around it.
you can't separate the playoffs from the regular season at this stage in the Phillies development. In 2022, the goal was break the drought, right? Break the postseason
Yeah,
drought. The Phillies have been horrible. They've been cheeks for a decade. The Phillies need to make the playoffs by whatever means necessary, and then whatever happens happens. We're happy we got there. And
right.
then and then they make this amazing run. They get to the World Series when honestly they kind of had no business being there. And you go, hey, maybe this team can make the World Series in 2023. They're a good team. They're better now. They got Trey Turner. They're better now.
Right.
And they just prove what they can do. Maybe they can win a World Series. And you go, but I remember going into the playoffs in 2023. I was like, they're going to face Atlanta though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
And that
Atlanta was a
and I
juggernaut
yeah, and
last
Atlanta's a
year.
juggernaut. They won like 104 games, had the best offense in like baseball history. And I remember being like, I don't know if they can get through Atlanta, but if they can get through the Braves, they can win the World Series. They're the best team left. And then they get into the NLCS, and at the time it was them and the Diamondbacks, and then the Astros and the Rangers. And I think everyone imagined it was going to be a Phillies Astros rematch. And you go,
Yeah,
the Astros are not quite as good as they were last time. The Phillies are better than they are last time. And if the Phillies somehow can face the Rangers, even better. You know what I mean? The Phillies are winning the World Series. You know what I mean? The
right. Also,
Diamondbacks are
until
terrible.
up through game 3 of the NLCS, the Phillies were absolutely
Phillies were
bombing.
cruising. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Phillies were cruising. And so when you go into 2022, no expectations of winning the World Series. They almost got there. Amazing. Thank you. I understand you ran out of gas at the very end. It's okay. You know what I mean?
right.
2023, you're hoping for a World Series. You're not 100% sure you can make it. Then you get to a point where you really should at this point, and then you drop the ball. And so
Mm,
2024, now the expectation has been set where you go, okay, we are now in the third year of the competitive timeline. This team is loaded, right? This team is the best iteration that has been in the playoffs yet. An absolutely elite rotation. Ranger Suarez had some struggles. He was dealing with an injury. Ranger Suarez actually pitched very well in game 4. He
yeah.
wasn't amazing, but he pitched out of trouble. He gave them more than they ever could have asked for. But I don't want to get off into the topic of that. I'm sorry.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
we'll
you go
cover this stuff, but
the
we're
Phillies have the best
mhm.
four-man rotation of any team in the playoffs. That's a lock. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then the Phillies bullpen, I understand play out this way, but going into the playoffs, you go the Phillies bullpen is elite, right? Strom and Hoffman are all-stars. Carlos Estevez has been an all-star before. He was very good down the stretch for the most part. Tanner Banks is like fine. Jose Ruiz is fine. Kirkering was good. You know what I mean? So you have like four very good pitchers, not to mention
wait,
Alvarado, who
Kirk was elite in his own right this year.
right, but that's four high leverage guys, not to mention Alvarado, who has been elite in the past, has struggled, but you still can turn to, right? So like the Phillies bullpen is a strength. And then the lineup, yes, it struggled down the stretch. No, I shouldn't even say down the stretch. It struggled for the second half of the year, but it's
Right,
loaded with stars. Johan Rojas is a black hole. But other than that, you have essentially good players at every position. Bryson Stott had a bad year. But you have a loaded lineup for all intents and purposes. And you look at it and you go, this team should win the World Series. Or at the very least, this team should beat the Mets. And then whoever
right,
they run into in the NLCS, they probably should be favored. The Dodgers, maybe not, but the Dodgers don't have any pitching because everybody's hurt. I understand the Dodgers subsequently have gone on to pitch very well somehow, even though everybody's hurt. I don't understand that.
right.
But the point is, going into the playoffs, you go, the Dodgers don't have any pitching, so you can chalk them out. You know what I mean? The Padres are kind of a scary team, but I still like the Phillies over the Padres. I kind of like the Phillies over anybody in the AL. Maybe the Yankees are pretty good, I guess. But you know, like the Orioles looked good, but then we see what happened to them.
Yeah.
But but basically
Yeah,
you go into it
The
and you go,
Orioles looked very Philly-Asian in the
yeah, they
playoffs,
really
didn't
did.
they? Yeah,
But so you go into the playoffs in 2024 going, you really need to win the World Series. And if you don't win the World Series, you need to come really close. You know what I mean? Like that, like this is
right.
now the expectation. And I want to point out, this is not just me being a jerk. This is not me just as a fan wanting more and more and more. The Phillies set this expectation for themselves
Yeah,
by
like we
talking
set this expectation for the Phillies, but they also set it for us,
exactly because at the
like
beginning of the year,
explicitly.
because at the beginning of the year, all the Phillies would talk about from the manager on down was how Losing in the NLCS left a bad taste in their mouths. They know they're a better team than that. They know they can win the World Series. They have a World Series caliber team. They know they can do it. They just dropped the ball. It was unfortunate, but you know what? This year they're coming back better than ever. They're going to get out to a hot start, which they did, in fairness. But they're going to get out to a
Yeah.
hot start, and then they're going to win the NL East, which they did, and then they know what they're doing in the playoffs this time. They're not going to get ambushed again by a team like the Diamondbacks, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they can win the World Series. And Tom, they came out and absolutely face planted. It wasn't even close. And I don't want to go all WIP here, but I kind of have to a little bit because this wasn't just, hey, you got beat by a hot team. If the Phillies were losing games 8-7 or something, and the Mets had a lot of breaks going their way, something like that, then you could maybe say things where you're like, hey, the baseball gods weren't on their side, and it was a hard fought 5 game series, and the Mets just edged them out. Fine. The Phillies were lucky to win 1 game. They were incredibly lucky. The Mets bullpen completely collapsed and allowed them because the Phillies tried really hard to give that game away by giving up 6 runs late. And Matt Strom
Oh
did not
yeah.
help. And I like Matt Strom. He had a fantastic year. But Matt Strom in the playoffs was a pumpkin. And he, in an LDS game two, gave up a home run to Mark Vientos, who I know no one in Philly likes, but Mark Vientos hit another home run to make it 6-6, and that took all the air out of the room, and everybody knew the Phillies were going to lose that game. And then somehow Nick Castellanos, who is probably everybody's favorite
My
Philly right
boy.
now, yeah,
Yeah.
came back and kind of single hand him and Bryce Harper kind of single handedly won them the game. And so game
Well,
two.
we that is the one game where Bryson Stott gets to not be the villain too,
Okay,
because
fair enough. Yeah, he had that
he hit a
triple. But
clutch
what I'm
triple.
getting at though is game one, Zach Wheeler was incredible. Prime Zach Wheeler, right? He threw like 111 pitches or something. And I got to say really
Yeah.
fast, people who are mad at Rob Thompson for not leaving Zach Wheeler in there, nobody in baseball throws more than like 110 pitches. I understand it's the playoffs, but this is a guy who you just locked up for like $40 million per year for another 3 years. They're not going to let him throw like 150 pitches. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
That's not Rob Thompson's
Also,
fault.
also, you're supposed to have an absolutely locked down
Right,
bullpen for him
right.
to keep the game to.
This was game
You
one
know.
before the Phillies blew a bunch of leads. So like game four, you can say that, you know what I mean, and say like, oh, you've watched your bullpen implode. How could you turn it over to them? In game one, you don't have any of that information. But so what I'm getting at is like,
Right.
if you're mad that Zach Wheeler didn't pitch into the eighth in game one, get mad at the game of baseball then. I don't know what to tell you. You know, be like, don't get mad at Rob Thompson. I think he made the right decision. It just didn't work. But my point is, game one, Zach Wheeler gave them everything they could have wanted and more, and they face planted. Just everybody out of the bullpen was a nightmare. And then
Hmm.
the offense did absolutely nothing. I know they scratched across a run late, but it didn't matter. They were down 6-1
Yeah, it
at
was a
that point.
garbage time run.
Yeah, it didn't
It didn't.
matter. It didn't matter.
Who cared?
And yeah, Kyle Schwarber hit 1 home run for the first at bat of the game, and that was it. And then game two, they barely eked out a win. And that was one of those ones where you go, hey, that was a bad game. The Phillies probably shouldn't have won that game. But it's the playoffs. A win is a win. It doesn't matter. And
Playoffs.
now you can get back on track. You know what I mean? Now you're
Right.
evened up. Now it's just best of three. See what you can do. It was not a win that you feel good about. I mean, it was a win that as a fan you feel great about because you watch it and you go, "Oh, they won." But like looking forward, you don't sit there and go, "Okay, they're back on track." You sit there and you go, "Ugh." You know what I mean? I don't know how they won that one. You're like,
The
you're glad they
best you
won.
could say was
The
like,
offense looked good.
you know what? Yeah, fresh series.
Yeah.
Now
So
they can
so
show us who they
so
are, and they did.
right. So game two, they eke out a win. And you go, okay, now it's time to get yourselves back on track. And game three comes out and they collapse again. They don't score any runs. Was that the Aaron Nola game?
Yes.
Yeah, that was Aaron Nola. Yeah. So Aaron Nola gives them 5 good innings and then falls apart in the sixth. Aaron Nola kind of does that. He wasn't really that bad. He wasn't great. He gave them the worst start of the four, but Aaron Nola is not the reason they lost that game. It was again because they didn't hit. And
Right.
then that was when you realized unless something really changes, the Phillies are gonna be out of the playoffs. And shocker, game four rolls around. They barely scratch across 1 run because Mark Vientos didn't know how to field the baseball. And then Francisco Lindor hits a grand slam, and that was all she wrote. And so it was one of those ones where, like, as soon as game one happened, I think a lot of Phillies fans were like, "Uh-oh, I don't think they flipped the switch like they said they were gonna." You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where if they had a bad game one, if they had a bad game two and three, whatever, they had a bad postseason because it's the postseason. And
Yeah.
when you lose 3 games in the first round, you don't get to play anymore. So the Phillies have no excuse. And something that I want to bring up is that they just had their end of year press conferences. I forget exactly what they call them. You watched it,
Hmm.
and Dave Dombrowski had one, and Rob Thompson had one. And they both, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what they said, but they both were asked, you know, what happened, how did this happen? And they kind of just say, well, that's baseball. I understand it's a PR answer. They're not going to sell out certain guys and say, oh, Alec Boehm sucked. JT Realmuto sucked, right? They're just going to give
Right.
platitudes.
As
But I
true as
think
all of
something,
that is, you know.
right, as true as all that is, they're not going to say it. I understand that. But I think the telling thing, and this is where we're going to get into a topic that we really, I think, want to talk about, Tom, is they decided to extend Rob Thompson's contract another year so that he's
Hmm.
locked up through 2026 and he's not a lame duck manager in 2025. I think that was the right decision. Rob
Yeah, I
Thompson has
agree
been
with
a
that.
very good manager. I don't think he's to fault for the Phillies losing in the playoffs recently, and I think he's a very good manager. So I'm okay with that. But the Phillies also announced that the entire coaching staff will be back, which for those not familiar with the Phillies coaching staff, they have a guy named Caleb Cotham who pitched in the majors for I think the Reds and the Yankees, and he's their
Right.
pitching coach. By all accounts, he's a wizard. He's gotten a lot out of these guys. No complaints with Caleb Cotham. Everybody's happy with his job. Excellent work. Nobody really
Right.
cares about the assistants. Nobody really cares about the base coaches. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The whipping boy for the fan base has been Kevin Long, who's a well known hitting coach. He coached for the Mets and the Yankees, I think, and the Nationals, and he's been around forever. And he's gotten a lot of hype lately. And he's the classic hitting coach. When the Phillies are doing well, Kevin Long's amazing. He's getting the best out of these guys. Kevin Long's the best in the business. Kevin Long can fix anybody. He can get Brandon Marsh, who's a failed prospect, and get him to the Phillies and have him with an 800 OPS. Kevin Long's amazing. And then when the Phillies go into a slump, Kevin Long sucks. Kevin Long doesn't know what he's doing. He's not teaching these guys anything. Kevin Long's got to go. I have, as someone with no inside information, I have no idea what the truth is about Kevin Long. I don't know what he does on a day-to-day basis. I don't know anything about the guy. But here's why I bring up Kevin Long. Kevin Long is really the only person who faced any scrutiny. The pitching was fine. The bullpen imploded a little bit, but everybody's happy with the pitching. Rob Thompson gets a little bit of heat, but he doesn't deserve to lose his job. If someone is going to take the fall for the 2024 Phillies, it's going to be Kevin Long. You can't fire the players, right?
Oh,
So
it would
Kevin
have
Long,
been Kevin Long.
right. I mean, listen, if you can fire players like that, you fire Real Muto, you fire Bohm, you fire Stott, you fire everybody who sucked. But that's not how baseball works. The coaches are the
Right.
ones you can fire. So if anybody's going to take the hit, it's going to be Kevin Long. They came out and announced preemptively the entire coaching staff will be back. Rob Thompson was asked about this, and he said something to the effect of, I think Kevin Long's an amazing hitting coach. If you ask anybody around the game of baseball, he's going to be in their top 5 hitting coaches, probably number 1. Kevin Long's the best in the business. He gets so much out of these guys, got great relationships with them. He's amazing. So what that tells me, Tom, and feel free to disagree, is that the Phillies are very clearly saying this was not a failing of the manager. The manager did great. We're going to pay him more money. This was not a failing of the pitching coach or the hitting coach. They will retain their jobs. So who is this a failing of, Tom? This was a failing of the
Um,
players.
the fan base.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like this is like quite simple. If everyone involved is not gonna face any repercussions, then if everyone who can be fired will not be facing repercussions, Dave Dombrowski is not losing his job, right?
Right.
And all of the coaching staff has retained their job. Then whose fault is it? The players. And I agree
Hmm.
with that. The the
Yeah,
the
that is
players
true. Hmm.
the players face planted. They were given no, I shouldn't say they were given because they earned a very good record. They played very well. They earned
Hmm.
they weren't given anything. But the Phillies got everything that they wanted. They talked about wanting a bye through the first round of the playoffs and winning the division and getting that. And they did it. They talked about wanting a bye, and then they talked about, wanting to be able to rest guys and have a little bit of time, in between locking up the division and the end of the season. And they got that. They talked about wanting to get off to a hot start, and they did it. And then they talked about, how they knew how they were going to be able to turn it on in the playoffs, and they got the opportunity to show that, and they didn't.
Right.
So
They
the
did
Phillies,
not check that box at all.
right. The Phillies were put in the exact position that they asked for, and they said they wanted, and they said they were ready for, and they blew it. Right?
Hmm.
The Phillies. There were no egregious managerial decisions that lost them games. You can nitpick some things that we're not happy about with Rob Thompson. I thought in game one he blew it by not reviewing that stolen base call where Harrison Bader was clearly out and then he came around to score. Right. There
Mhm.
were a few things where you can debate going to Carlos Estevez in game four. Maybe he was the wrong guy for the spot. You can debate leaving Jeff Hoffman in there. But Rob Thompson didn't single-handedly lose them any games.
There are moves that we probably could criticize Rob Thompson for, like Jeff Hoffman coming out in game four after the inning break, after that long inning. He clearly did not have it. And I think that there is like a window where you try to let him find it because of how good he's been. But that window closes somewhere between the first wild pitch and probably
And
ends.
loading the bases with no one out.
Well, I would say it ends definitively when he hit Marte. It's like, dude, you don't have it tonight. Sorry. You had
Right.
it for that one out last inning, but you don't have it anymore.
Right.
It's time to pull him, which he didn't. But like at the end of the day, what we came down on was it did not really matter what Rob Thompson did because even if he managed perfectly, like I can't see any decisions that he makes that are inspired and brilliant that changed the course of that series because the Phillies just didn't hit anything for the entire series. And
Right.
also, every button that he could push in the bullpen blew up in his face every single time. Like,
Right. Right.
he could have
And
put me out there.
the
I could go out there and
and
give up 4 runs, But I mean, I would give
and
up
the
more
thing
than that.
about
But
it, the thing about it too was like in game four, the Phillies scored one run by
yeah,
accident. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Thanks to
Like,
Mark Vientos,
yeah,
he
like the
gave it.
Phillies were just not hitting the baseball. So like let's say Rob Thompson somehow wizards his way out of that inning. And
Mhm.
the Mets only score one run with the bases loaded and nobody out. That's still a tie game, 1-1. Do you see the Phillies scoring a second run and somehow
They
holding the
didn't.
Mets? Absolutely not. Like, no way. So it really was like, yes, we can, like, you can always criticize the manager or the head coach in football or whatever for some things. He's never going to be perfect. Rob Thompson absolutely was not the reason why the Phillies lost that series.
Hmm. I think
And
the upsetting thing is outside of Rob Thompson, because Rob Thompson, I think, made more mistakes last year than he did this year.
I would
Mistakes
agree.
that also impacted the series more last year. But like outside of Rob Thompson, the Phillies stepped on the exact same rake that they did in 2023 in the NLCS. Like they they ran it back, and boy did they ever, because they came out against the team they should have beaten in the playoffs, and they did the exact same thing. The bullpen stopped being effective. The hitting completely shut down with the exact same like playbook being used against them. It's not like the Mets came up with something different. They just did what the Diamondbacks did, and it had the same exact effect. The only difference was Nick Castellanos hit this postseason, and he didn't against the NLCS or against the Diamondbacks in the NLCS. But other than that, like you still saw Trey Turner waving at pitches that weren't close. You still saw JT Realmuto popping out, 2-0 with two guys on after 8 straight balls.
Right.
Like you're still seeing like just baffling approaches at the plate. And like this is why there's so much talk about Kevin Long. It's not just because they didn't hit, because Kevin Long doesn't have the controller in his hand. He's not
It was the
out
way
there.
that they didn't hit. It was the
Yeah, it
way.
was it
Can,
was the
can I can
fact
I
that,
read you something, Tom?
well, hold on real quick. It's the
Okay.
fact that they went out there and didn't hit the exact same way that they did in the World Series when they shut off against the Astros and in the NLCS last year. So
Right.
it's like you guys have had 2 years to make adjustments, and like a big part of Kevin Long's job is to like be aware of this stuff.
Prepare them for this.
Like
Yeah.
the whole point of like analytics and like having all this video that teams have now, and like having a hitting coach kind of in general, is like, yeah, we know how we got pitched last year and it shut us down. We know how we've gotten pitched at times this year and it's shut us down. And like part
What
of
can
your
we do
job,
to avoid that
arguably
in
the
the
biggest
future?
part of your job as the hitting coach, is like, okay, this is what they're doing to us. We have to make these adjustments. And like, yeah, he can't make the players make the adjustments. So like maybe he did have those conversations. You and I don't know that. But
Right.
like at the end of the day, like it's kind of like what you said, where like I mean, it's exactly what you said, where the coaches are the guys that you can fire, and part of the coach's job in any given position, the manager, the pitching coach, the hitting coach, all that stuff. Like the end of the day, a part of your job is you're the guy who goes on the cross when that
Right.
part of the team fails. It's not
So
always your fault, but like sometimes it's like, somebody's head has to roll, and it's not going to be the players because they have guaranteed contracts, and you can't fire them unless like they truly suck. Like if they're Javi Baez level bad, you can fire them. You still have to pay them, but you can fire them, you know?
so Tom, can I read you something really fast?
Yes.
You will be familiar with this. For
Mhm.
those who don't know us very well, we're kind of history sickos. We love studying history, particularly military history, and we both have an
Mhm.
interest in World War II, right? So something came to mind when I was thinking about Kevin Long, and I don't want to actually equate this to warfare. It's just an example.
Right. It's much more
I'm
serious
gonna
than
I'm gonna
warfare.
read you the Wikipedia definition of the concept of command responsibility. It says,
Mhm.
in the practice of international law, command responsibility is the legal doctrine of hierarchical accountability for war crimes, whereby a commanding officer and a superior officer is legally responsible for the war crimes and the crimes against humanity committed by his subordinates. Thus, a commanding officer is always accountable for the acts of commission and the acts of omission of his soldiers. I
I
understand
don't
that's an
mean to
extreme.
like be over here laughing, but it is like
No.
very jarring to be like the Phillies blew it in the playoffs, and you know what? Now let's talk about war crimes.
All right. So here's the reason why I brought that up. The thing that popped into my head was General Yamashita from the Imperial Japanese Army,
Ooh, I know this
right?
guy.
You know,
Yeah.
you're familiar with this guy, Tomoyuki
Mm.
Yamashita, who at the end of World War II, it says 23 February 1946, was put to death by the Allied. It wasn't the Nuremberg trials; it was wherever it was
No,
in.
it was
Yeah,
the the Asian theater
yeah,
equivalent
I
of
forget
that.
what it was
Yeah.
called, but anyway, he was executed because he was tried for war crimes because the soldiers under his command committed war crimes in the Philippines, right? He was in overall command of the Japanese occupation of the Philippines.
Mm.
And not to get off a rabbit hole, but it was brutal, it was oppressive, and they killed
Right.
people and they raped and murdered and looted, and it was awful, just like the Japanese Empire
Right.
did everywhere. And so General Yamashita was not directly involved in it. He was, as far as I know, was not going around raping, killing and murdering, but he was not going around raping and looting and
Right.
pillaging and
I
murdering.
mean, okay, look, technically those are two different things.
Right. But he essentially was held responsible for this because he allowed these things to happen under his watch. And the whole idea of this command responsibility is the idea saying you allowed this to happen under
Right.
your authority and you had the authority to stop this and you did not. And so that brings me back to Kevin Long, the Tomoyuki Yamashita of the Phillies, if I may.
Mhm.
I'm
Now,
being silly. I'm being silly.
disclaimer, we are accusing Kevin Long of war crimes.
Of course. But here's what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. Here's
I
what I'm
just
getting
want to
at.
be clear about that.
I, and I think a lot of other Phillies fans, kind of wanted Kevin Long to be tried by a
For war
jury of
crimes,
his.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Kind of wanted Kevin Long to be held responsible under this idea of command responsibility. You are the hitting coach. Your job is to teach the Phillies how to hit. It's not how to teach them how to field or how to pitch or how to run the bases. I don't actually know if he has anything to do with running the bases or not. That may be sort of part of his
I
job.
believe they have base running coaches.
Okay, yeah, probably. But the point is, your job is the hitting coach. You teach the Phillies how to hit. That's all you do, Kevin Long. You teach them
Mhm.
how to hit, how to prepare to hit, what to be prepared for, and how to do a good job of it. They're good
And
hitting
the
coaches,
team's
and there are
like,
bad hitting coaches.
yeah, the team's hitting approach is also your responsibility.
Right. You're supposed to come up with strategy. You're supposed to come up with thought processes for these players to follow, things to look for, things like that. And so you're
Mhm.
basically think of Kevin Long as the offensive coordinator. You're supposed to tell them what to go out there, what to look for, and what to do. And here, I think, is the big difference. General Yamashita is allowed to tell his soldiers directly, kill that person. Don't kill that person, right? Or he's
This is
allowed to
so
come in on
weird.
some He's allowed to
This
come in on someone killing someone and say, "Hey, stop that," and they have to do what they're told. That's the whole idea of military command. The difference is Kevin Long can look at Trey Turner all day and say, "Hey, here's an idea. Don't take a first pitch fastball down the middle and get yourself down 0-1. And then don't swing at the 0-1 slider in the dirt to make it 0-2. That's a bad idea." He might tell Trey Turner that all day long, and Trey Turner might go out and do it anyway, and there's nothing
Mhm.
Kevin Long can do about
Yeah,
it.
again, Kevin Long doesn't have like the controller in his hand, you
Kevin
know.
Long, it seems, does not have command responsibility. And so what I'm getting at here is this was a very roundabout way, but I hope you all enjoyed my example. What I'm getting at here is
That was a little weird, I'm not gonna lie to you.
no, it's totally weird. But that is what popped in my head because what I'm thinking of is the hitting coach responsible for the failings or success of the hitters? Or is the hitting coach just there to offer guidance and attempt to put them in a good position? But ultimately, the players are responsible for the actual hitting. It seems the Phillies organization as a whole has come to the conclusion that the hitters are responsible for the lack of hitting in the playoffs.
Right,
They
which
may be right.
is true.
I don't I have never seen Kevin Long work. I have no idea if he's a good hitting coach or a bad hitting coach. I really have no idea what he does on a day-to-day basis. So I don't want to sit here and actually judge the job that Kevin Long is doing. All I
Right.
can judge right now is the job the Phillies players are doing. And it was a terrible job, right? And so if the Phillies decided Kevin Long was a problem, he probably would have been fired. Although, side note, there is a theory going around that Kevin Long, when he was the hitting coach with the National, is really good friends with Juan Soto, and the Phillies are going to make a run at Juan Soto this winter. And so Kevin
Right.
Long is obviously a big recruitment tool, for lack of a better term. So they're keeping
Mhm.
Kevin Long around for that. If that's the case, and that's the only reason why I have him, if Kevin Long reels in Juan Soto, he can be the Phillies hitting coach for 10 more years, and I won't care.
Yeah.
But if that's the only reason you're keeping him around and Juan Soto signs elsewhere, then you turn around and you knife Kevin Long right in the back. I think that's the way it's got to be. If that's the only reason he still has a job, then as soon as he ceases to be useful with Juan Soto, you show him the door.
Mhm. Yeah,
However,
I doubt that's going to happen, judging
I
by
doubt it's
the
going to happen
press conference they had. But yeah, I mean, I think to close the book a little bit on Kevin Long, you can't
too. I'm
put.
sorry. Did you mean on General Yamashita?
I did, yeah. You can't put the direct responsibility at his feet because again, he doesn't have the controller in his hand. He can't. He isn't doing the hitting.
Right.
But like, after 3 years of the team getting owned the same exact way at the plate, you know, there does come a point where it's like, well, dude, at least for me and you, for people who are not in the clubhouse with them, we can't look at it and be like, okay, he's telling them to do this and they're just not doing it. We can't look at the ins and outs of the game plan that he's coming up with for these guys. All we can look at is the results. It's like, well,
Right.
the results have been alarming in the playoffs over the last few years. And like, you can look at their regular season and they have been scoring a lot of runs in the regular season, but like, this is speculation on my part. Again, I don't know if teams actually do this, but like my guess would be you're not going to show the Phillies your full hand the entire season to give them time to adjust to it. Like if you already know, like, all right, the Phillies are going to be in the playoffs, we're going to be in the playoffs. If you're like the Dodgers or whatever, the Mets might be different because the Mets were fighting for their lives the whole season. But like a lot of teams aren't going to go out there, I would assume, and just pitch the Phillies like that all year because, you know, if you see them in the playoffs, you don't want it to be like, oh, yeah, they had 162 games of this to get adjusted to it. And I think we saw at times during the season, they did get pitched like that. And at times, like in the beginning of the year, they kind of didn't. And you can really see the difference between, when the playbook is being used against the Phillies and when it's not. So I don't know. That might just be speculation on my part. I feel like what I'm getting at is all we can look at is the results. And again, when the chips are down and you need the team to be hitting, this is now 3 straight postseasons where they have failed to do so. And yeah, Kevin Long at least should have been maybe a little more in the hot seat than he was. But yeah, so yeah, let's close the book on Kevin Long. We've talked about that a lot. Um,
We've slandered Kevin long enough, really.
yeah,
Um,
like I would say that what really is disturbing is that yeah, they lost the same exact way 3 years in a row now. And what you're seeing from that conference that you mentioned, the press conference, the like postseason, the post mortem, which is kind of what
yeah.
we're doing. Uh,
No, this is an
it
autopsy, dude.
seems like they're pretty committed to just like running it back again. Which, like, on one hand, they
I
won 95 games, so like obviously they can win baseball games. But on the other hand, like you did see this team's flaws get exposed pretty hard in the playoffs. And it wasn't like a general flaw. It wasn't like, their pitching was bad and their pitching got lit up in the playoffs. More like, their approach at the plate, like we've talked about. And like the bullpen, you can't account for that. That's just baseball. But
right.
you also saw like, and we had a lengthy conversation about this too, with like in terms of attitude. Like, I don't know about you guys. When I was watching, like, there were points during the first game where I just saw the looks on like Trey Turner's face and like Bryce Harper.
Alec Boehm, public enemy number one.
Yeah, all of those guys. There were points during like game one where I just saw the look on their face and they were just like, and I was like, dude, these guys look like they already lost the series. Like, and the thing is, like, yeah, your mentality, your attitude is like a very wishy washy thing, how much it matters. But, like, at the end of the day, if you convince yourself that you're going to lose the game, like, you're going to find a way to lose it. And the Phillies found a lot of ways to lose those games in this series. So, like, it's hard not to look at, like, dudes were hanging their heads, dudes just looked stunned. And it's like, where's like the fire, like
Can I read you a couple of numbers?
yes, yeah.
Okay, I will read you the Phillies OPSs in descending order. You ready? This is going to be ugly.
Okay,
Bryce Harper, 1279. Beautiful.
okay. Another
Nick
great
Castellanos.
postseason. Yeah,
Yeah. Nick Castellanos, 1059. Excellent.
great.
Cody Clemens, 5 at bats, 1000 OPS. Great. Couldn't ask for more.
Did his job.
Ready? Bryson Stott, 671. Edmundo Sosa, 650. Kyle Schwarber, 576. Johan
Eesh.
Rojas, Johan Rojas, middle of the pack with a 533. Trey Turner, 494. JT Real Muto, a 0.000 batting average, 313 OPS. Alec Boehm, 220 OPS. Brandon Marsh, 154. Austin Hayes and Weston Wilson rounded out with a 0 OPS.
Yeah, and like if you look at that number, you can also look at the stat that somebody pulled that's been making the rounds that outside of Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos, the Phillies batted like 130 in the
Yeah,
series.
absurd, absurd. So I just want to make this clear. Two Phillies regulars were outstanding, OPS over 1,000, and then Cody Clemens in a bench role was good over 5 at bats.
Yeah, he did what he had to.
The entire rest of the offense didn't have a single hitter with an OPS over 700. That's that's inexcusable, Tom. Like I don't know how else to say it.
I
And,
know how
and
to
it's
say it.
not
It's shocking. Like,
it's shocking. And here's the thing. Like Bryson Stott with a 671 OPS, that's like regular bad, right?
yeah, he did what he did the
Edmundo
regular
Sosa,
season.
yeah, Edmundo Sosa with a 650 OPS, that's like regular bad. Trey Turner down here at 494, JT Real Muto at 313, Alec Boehm with who got benched by the way, and
Yeah.
with an appalling 220 OPS, and Brandon Marsh with a 154 OPS. The all the offense he gave them was one single.
I
Like,
believe Brandon Marsh's hit was an infield hit, by the way.
dude, this is absurd. These guys, like Trey Turner had a. I understand people have problems with Trey Turner. He had an 807 OPS on the year, right?
Yeah.
Oh, coincidentally, by the way, Bryson started a 671 OPS in the regular season and a 671 OPS in the regular season.
Oh, so when
So
I said he did what he did in the regular season, I meant it. Yeah.
you were exactly right.
Yeah.
Like, and in fairness, I want to get on the bullpen too, because the Phillies bullpen, I will go by ERA. Here are their starters. Zach Wheeler, 0 ERA, 7 innings pitched. Ranger Suarez, 4 1/3, no earned runs. Christopher Sanchez, 5 innings, 2 earned runs. That's a good start.
Yeah, rough
And
start.
Aaron Nola, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, ran out of gas at the end. Okay. Jeff Hoffman, 1 1/3 innings, 6 earned runs. Jose Alvarado, 2 thirds, 2 earned runs. Matt Strom, 2 innings, 4 earned runs. Tanner Banks, who's kind of irrelevant, 1 earned run, probably shouldn't even have been earned because Harrison Bader was out at second base, but whatever.
Right.
Jose Ruiz, 1 1/3, 1 earned run, and Carlos Estevez, 2 2/3, uh, 1 earned run, 1 unearned run, but he also gave up the Lindor Grand Slam, which a bunch of other people's earned runs, so we're considering
Hmm.
that probably not good. Orion Kirkering, 3 2/3, 1 earned run, but again, also gave a bunch of other people's runs. So horrendous bullpen too. So really, when you look at that, you go, the starting pitching was good. Aaron Nola was okay, but the starting pitching was good. Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos were good. Literally, no one else on the Phillies was good. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. This season, and I want to be careful about how I say this because I enjoyed watching the Phillies all year. Yes, they were frustrating
Yeah. I think we
at
all
at
enjoyed
times.
watching
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
2024 regular season, I will look back on as a resounding success. However, the 2024 Phillies season as a whole is an abject failure, and there's no way to get around it. The expectations were set by the organization itself and the fan base at World Series or bust. And you can get into the merits of that and whether or not that's good or whether or not that's productive. But the point is, that was the expectation, and the Phillies themselves said, "We're in. We're up for the challenge. It's all about
Hmm.
October." And they completely face planted. So there's no way to say, "Hey, it was pretty good." And I know Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski kind of tried to do this a little bit because it's PR, and they kind of came out and said, "Hey, we won 95 games. We had 8 All-Stars. It was a really good year, and it's baseball. It happens." No, I disagree. If they played really hard and lost a 5 game series by 3 really close games, that'd be one thing. You know what I mean? If you go out
Yeah.
there and you say, "Hey, a couple of breaks go the other way," maybe maybe one of the umpires was bad and screwed the Phillies over, that sort of thing. That'd be different. The Phillies did not look like they belonged on the same field as the Mets, right?
No,
And
they
so
straight up just didn't belong
they
there.
didn't belong on the same field as the Mets. And so here's what it gets down to. Change is needed, right? The Phillies in 2022 got to the World Series when they had no business being there, ran out of gas. 2023 fell apart, but they did well on the whole. And 2024 is now an abject failure, as I previously said.
Hmm.
I think I speak for a lot of Phillies fans saying, I really don't know if the Phillies are going to win a World Series with this team. I'm not saying it can't happen. They could come out in 2025, blow the doors off, and win the World Series. That's absolutely a possibility. It's a very good team who more than likely will make the playoffs again. And when you make the playoffs, you have a chance to win the World Series. So
Hmm.
I'm not saying they can't win a World Series, but you look at it and you say 2022 was a very good chance to win the World Series because you were in it. You know what I mean? You had a 50-50 chance, essentially. You could have won the World Series. You did. 2023, they really should have won the World Series. They should have beaten the Diamondbacks, and then they probably should have beaten whatever AL team they ran up against, and they didn't. And then 2024, the Phillies were very well positioned to win the World Series. They had an excellent team. They should have beaten the Mets. They probably could have beaten whoever they came up against in the NLDS or the NLCS.
Hmm.
And then you're in the World Series again, you can win it. First of all, you never know how many chances you're going to get, right? Because the
Yeah.
2011 Phillies didn't think that was the end of the dynasty, whatever. They didn't think
Yeah.
that was the end of.
It,
You can't call it a
it turned
dynasty.
out to be like the brief reign of the
Yeah, it was a
Phillies.
nice run, but like I
Yeah.
don't think the 2011 Phillies thought that was the last time Howard Utley Rollins were going to make the playoffs, but it was. So
Or the
like,
last time Howard Utley Rollins were any good, you know?
yeah, yeah, but like I don't think this is the end of this Phillies core, but you never know. So you have to maximize the
Right.
chances that you have. And more than that, this team still has glaring flaws. Center field is a black hole. Johan Rojas cannot be your starting. There is one path to Johan Rojas getting consistent playing time. If you get Juan Soto and change nothing else, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you
Right?
make it work around Juan
Juan
Soto.
Soto is a big
Yeah,
enough deal that I don't care what you do, get him. If you got to give him $700 million like Shohei Ohtani, he's worth it.
right.
So if you want to play Johan Rojas every day because that's the only way to make it work with Juan Soto, fine. But short of Juan Soto, Johan Rojas cannot be the starting center fielder.
Hmm.
Brandon Marsh has shown he can't hit left-handed pitching. That could change in the future, but as of now, I think you have to consider him a platoon player. I don't know if you agree, but let me rant for a second.
I think
Real
that
mute,
he's had a pretty decent amount of chances to show that he's not a platoon player, and he has
right?
not really shown that. So
I
it's
I
hard
am
to be
hoping.
like, it's hard to look at like his what, like 500 OPS against lefties and be like, no, you know what? I think there's room for growth there. It's like
Right, right. So
maybe in
I am
spring training,
hoping
but I don't know.
I am hoping that Brandon Marsh will start to hit lefties and become a regular play,
Yeah,
an everyday player.
he could
I'm not
do it.
confident. I'm
He's
not
talented
confident that it
enough.
will happen. But so you basically have like one and a half holes in the outfield. You need at the very least a platoon partner for Brandon Marsh,
Right.
and that which I guess you could bring back Austin Hayes, but he's kind of expensive for a player that wasn't any good when they got him. Although
Hmm.
not really his fault. He got sick and stuff. I understand that. And then Johan Rojas cannot start in center field. So you need to fill like one and a half holes in the outfield. Real Muto, I love him. He probably will be a Phillies Wall of Famer and deservedly so. Probably needs to only catch like 2/3 of the games this season, right? He
Well,
can't
I
you
think
can't
you
run him into the
do
ground.
see movement towards having Marshawn be the backup catcher, although they did mention that he has injury issues, which he does, but they
Right,
seem to have signaled that they are maybe ready to move on from Stubbs, which is a necessary move because as much as Stubbs is a
right.
good vibes guy and everybody loves him, uh Stubbs does not give you anything on the field. And yeah, if you have to pick a position where you're not going to get anything on the field, backup catcher's the best one to put that guy at. But like
Right. Like Garrett Stubbs had
Marshawn
like
has just looked,
zero.
yeah, Marshawn has just looked better. So, why not give
Yeah.
him a shot? The
Yeah.
worst he
Like
can
like
be is exactly like Stubbs.
right, right. Like Garrett Stubbs had zero impact on the Phillies 2024 season. He didn't really win or lose the many games throughout the year, and he didn't play a single inning of playoff baseball. So
Yeah.
there's no reason to get angry with Garrett Stubbs. It's just moving forward. Garrett Stubbs is not really a good baseball player. I love him. He played for Team Israel and was awesome. I love Garrett Stubbs. I want him to keep getting major league checks. I just don't want it to be with the Phillies.
Mm.
So Garrett Stubbs, you need to move on from because you need the backup catcher to take on a bigger workload, and Garrett Stubbs is not that guy. First
Can
base
I
is locked
add
up.
can I add two controversial names to this list?
Sure.
Because one might not be, but the other one I think is. So I have a set of four players that, to me, I don't feel that the Phillies should be guaranteeing all four of these guys a starting role. And you
Okay.
mentioned two of them. Marsh, yeah, Marsh I think is a platoon guy until he shows you otherwise, which he has not. And you know what? That's fine because plenty of teams platoon, especially I feel like the corner outfield positions right now, and they do fine. There's nothing wrong
Right.
with that. That's a working strategy. Rojas just cannot hit, and unless you get Soto, which the Phillies are kind of a dark horse at best for Soto,
Right.
unless you get Soto, it's probably it for Rojas because I don't see Rojas suddenly becoming like a 700 OPS guy. And the lineup has now shown that they are not really consistent enough to be carrying Rojas because they can hit well enough when they're on fire that it doesn't matter what you do with Rojas because the other eight guys are going to bang. But when they're off, all of a sudden, having an even bigger black hole at the bottom of the order hurts way more. But the two guys that I want to add to this list, the first one's not really that controversial, and I don't think they're going to move him, but I think Alec Boehm needs to be a trade candidate. And I'm not saying trade
Yeah, I
him
think everybody agrees.
just out of spite, okay? Which a lot of people probably are saying that because
Yeah, don't trade him just to get rid of him.
Alec Boehm's stock in Philly is dropping hard right now. And I still think Alec Boehm is a good baseball player. It's not like he sucks.
No.
Um, but I think the reason that you have to consider moving him is that his ceiling is kind of like a guy who hits a decent number of doubles, who's a bad fielder and is slow as hell on the base paths and can have a little bit of a bad attitude when he's not playing well. And like that's his ceiling. Like we saw that this year. And like you have Miller in the minors who is coming, but he's not ready yet. So you can't just trade Alec Boehm and not have a plan at third base.
Right.
The only way that I see Boehm getting moved is one, it has to be for something that the Phillies actually need. Like it has to fill a hole, which right now the Phillies need arms in the bullpen and they need outfielders. And I don't have a good like thought on who the trade could be. I know one of our friends brought up trading Alec Boehm for Jaron Duran of the Red Sox, which if I'm the Red Sox, I'm not doing that. But like that's the
I was
kind of
just
move
say
that I want
you
to
got
see.
you got
Like,
attached prospects or something to
yeah,
Bowman.
that's the kind of move that I would want to see is like something that fills a hole for the Phillies and is not just like trading to restock the farm because Boehm is not he's not like a negative war guy. You know, he's just not that great. The other guy who I think might be a little more controversial is to me, I feel like Bryson Stott should not just be guaranteed a job out of spring training. And I understand that there's the same issue where it's like, okay, well, who's the other second baseman? But like Bryson Stott took kind of a huge step back offensively this year.
Yeah.
And you're seeing regression from guys who should not be regressing, like Bryson Stott and kind of Brandon Marsh also. But you're also seeing regression from the guys who it's more understandable, like JT Realmuto. You know, it's like, okay, well, he's a catcher. He's not a young catcher anymore. So, yeah,
And he
some
catches
regression
way
is to
more
be.
innings than anybody else.
Yeah, he catches like way more than any other catcher in the league, pretty much. Some regression is to be expected, you know, as guys age. But
Right.
when you have the dudes who are supposed to be the young guys who are gonna like get better every year, and most of them are not doing that, it's like, well, I don't want to just hand these dudes jobs because like Bryson Stott to me is he's not in exactly the same boat as Rojas because his offense is
No, his
substantially
upside is
better than
is like
Rojas.
actually a decent hitter.
Yeah, and even like his downside is better than Rojas's ceiling right now. But um, I like right now having had a 671 OPS or whatever he had, and like just not being a very good hitter this year. Like you were kind of carrying two glove only guys in the lineup. And then
Right.
you start to see like, well, if you're putting Sosa in to spell somebody, like all of a sudden it's like, dude, we got like a lot of glove only guys on the lineup, and this is supposed to be a team that bangs. Uh I do feel that their depth was a little better this year. Clemens was a much better bench bat than last
Clemens was good.
year's.
Weston Wilson was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last year's podcast namer, Jake Cave. Uh I will take Cody Clemens every time. But I think like
Yep.
going forward, the four names that I think have to be on the bubble, and it's not all of them. You can't get rid of all of them, but it's Bohm, Marsh, Stott, and Rojas. Like I don't want to see all four of those guys just be starters every day anymore because you can't really carry that.
Well, the one thing about it is if you don't move Bohm, he starts every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think what the Phillies will try to explore is signing Alex Bregman and then trading Alec Boehm, which I think
Yeah.
I would be okay with. I think I would be okay
I
with.
would be okay with it. I also suspect that the Phillies will not get Bregman, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll just come down to how much money he wants. You know what I mean, if he like, I think the Phillies would probably rather do a shorter term deal with a little bit more money
yeah, but I
at
mean that's going to be true
every
of
year.
every team, you know. Who's
Yeah.
Who's the team out there that's looking at 31-year-old Alex Bregman and is like, let's sign him for 7 years. Let's sign him for 8 years. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
they want to be like, oh, yeah, let's do 2 years, 50 million,
Yeah.
risk
Well,
free.
I mean, so yeah. So I mean that's like a path. But if you don't move Bohm, he's your everyday third baseman. But
Yeah,
yeah, like Bryson Stott has hit poorly enough last year that if he's not hitting again this year, you do have to consider not playing him every day.
right.
And
Well, I
then
think the move then, and this is another thing that you could fill in free agency, and I don't think I'm advocating for this necessarily, but and also this has kind of been shot down already. We've talked before about how Trey Turner is not a good shortstop and probably should not be the shortstop next year. I believe the team already addressed this and said that he will be.
oh wait, you don't remember this part of the press conference?
I actually did not watch the press conference. I just like read
Oh, it was
coverage of it.
hysterical. I'm paraphrasing, but Tim Kelly, the guy who writes for Phillies Nation or something, I forget, one of those,
Hmm.
asked a question, and he asked Dave Dombrowski. He was like, "Hey, all these defensive metrics show that Trey Turner's not a good shortstop.
Right.
Are there any thoughts of moving him off shortstop in the future?" And Dave Dombrowski kind of gave a bunch of platitudes and was like, well, Trey's worked really hard. He's really improved. We think he's going to get even better, which, at 31 years old or whatever, losing athleticism, of course he'll get better moving forward. But he was saying that, like we think he's gonna continue to improve. And I'm not sure what metrics you've been looking at, but we actually think Trey Turner is a pretty good defender. And a lot of the metrics bear that out. And this guy, Tim Kelly, came right back at him and was like, oh, okay, well, his outs above average and his defensive runs saved and his ultimate zone rating and this and this and this were all negative. So that would seem to show that Trey Turner is a poor defensive shortstop. And
Right.
Dave Dombrowski was basically like, well, moving forward, Trey Turner is going to continue to be our shortstop, and we
Right.
think he's really going to continue to improve. Can you show me any player in the history of baseball whose defense drastically improved heading into their mid 30s? I don't think that's ever. Oh, sorry, at a premium position, by the way. This isn't
Right.
like a
Yeah. It's
first
not like
baseman
a first baseman who
or like a
finally got
left
it.
fielder. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about? And honestly, and like we know why they're doing this because they signed Trey Turner to a huge contract to be a shortstop. And
Right.
when you say try and Trey Turner to a huge contract to be a second baseman, it's not as good. So I understand why they're doing it. And there's also this argument that Bryson Stott is an elite second baseman and kind of an average shortstop. So you keep the elite defense at second base, you keep Trey Turner happy playing him short. Um,
Hmm.
if I'm the Phillies, I'm sitting Trey Turner down and saying, "Hey, we're paying you $300 million. I don't care how you feel about playing second base. You're playing second base. You know what I mean? Like once you pay someone
Right.
that amount of money, I'm not concerned with their feelings. Your $300
Hmm.
million should soothe any feelings you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there is an argument to be made that like you don't want to be the organization that necessarily does that to its star players because it might make it harder to sign guys in the future. I don't know if that's as
Can I
big of a deal as people would make out of
can I
it.
one up you though? Trey Turner signed an 11-year, $300 million contract with the Phillies to be their shortstop. And Xander Bogaerts, the exact same offseason, signed an 11-year, $280 million contract to the Padres to be their shortstop. And in year two, he agreed to move to second base.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
So
not saying that I don't think Trey Turner should be considered to move. I think even maybe he should be considered to move to like the outfield, even though that kind of nullifies the value of his bat in a lot of ways. But regardless, I think to get back to where we were going, if you're looking at Stott as not an everyday player, which he did not hit like an everyday player this year, and the realities of the organization make it that like the only way you're addressing that is in free agency. And like,
right.
yeah, the Phillies could go out there and sign Willie Adames to play shortstop and put Turner at second base. And like, yeah, they could do that. I don't think that that's in the cards at all. But
Yeah, that's just another huge
that's
contract. And
that's
yeah.
probably the highest profile way you could solve that. I don't know what the middle infield like market looks like. I think the free agent market is very starting pitching heavy
And
this
like
year.
first base heavy.
Guys, welcome back to the game. We're here. Ethan, I'm going to baton pass over to you. Why don't you tell them what we're going to be doing this
Thanks,
evening?
pal. So I don't know if everybody out there is familiar with Sporkle. I used to play them in high school. It's a blast. It's just online quizzes. And so it comes with a little search bar. You type in a guy's name. So for instance, don't hit play yet because it's on a timer. But
I'm
for
not. I'm not.
instance, like there's one for Phillies starting lineups, and it goes all the way back to 1980. So you type in Howard, Ryan Howard, fills in all the blanks that
Right.
he's in there, Chase
We
Utley,
did
so on
this
and so
for
forth.
every team like 3 weeks
Yeah,
ago,
it's
by the way.
awesome. It's awesome. So we can do quizzes of those. Those are a lot of fun. But I found ones Phillies starting pitchers from 1980 to 2019. So you got to basically try and name the rotation. So the way it works is if you type in like everybody knows Cole Hamels, you type in Hamels, it'll fill in him for every single one he's in. You don't have to type it into each box, right? So it makes it
Right.
easier that way. But it's so hard. Like I don't know who was pitching for the Phillies in like 1986. You know what I mean? It's so much fun to see who you can remember and who you can't remember. And then at the end, it'll show you everybody that you don't, that you didn't get. So anyway, and also there are these for I'll put the link down below, but there are links there are quizzes for every team. So you can do Pirates rotations and Astros rotations and so on and so forth.
Right.
Without
Yeah. If you
further
want to
ado,
do
Tom,
hard mode, you can do the Pirates.
yeah, should we start naming some terrible Phillies pitchers and you can type them in?
Yeah. Let me clear all the ads off here.
Yeah.
You can see this, right?
Yep. So we have a 16-minute timer. Go.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
Okay. So we're gonna start off with
Halliday,
Hamels, Halliday,
Lee,
Oswald,
Oswalt,
Lee,
Worley.
Worley,
Yeah.
Kyle
Kendrick,
Kendrick, Jamie
uh,
Moyer, Brett
Myers,
Myers. I'm gonna do
um,
Schilling
Adam
and
Eaton.
oh yeah, Kevin Millwood, right?
Oh, okay.
Randy
How about
Wolf.
Omar Dahl? Daal.
Yep. Omar
Um,
Dahl.
yeah, Robert Person, Steve
Yeah.
Carlton.
Steve Carlton.
How
Um,
about Bob Walk?
Terry Mulholland, right?
Nice.
Bob Walk. Oh yeah,
Larry
there he is.
Christensen.
You are
I think it's
already
EN. I think it's Sten.
Christiansen.
No, 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 no. Christ En.
Oh,
En. Yeah, there you go.
Son. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you
Wow,
go.
that guy's bad.
Let's see.
Uh,
Wasn't there a Green, Tommy Green or something?
Bream. Well,
Try Green with an E. I think there was a Green with an E too, wasn't there?
yep, there he is, Tommy Green.
David West.
West. Yeah, this is all you right now. That's
Um,
I'm trying to think of like dudes from the '80s, but
JD
like,
Durbin. Did he get a lot of starts?
there's no way. No.
Did we do Kyle Kendrick already? Can you go down?
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
Padilla. Vicente. Wait, ready? Vicente Padilla.
Give us an idea.
Sid Fernandez. How about
Okay,
Shane
wait.
Rawley?
2007. Who was the fifth starter?
Really fast, just because he popped in my head. Shane Rawley, Rawley.
Raleigh.
Uh, Aaron Nola,
Yeah, Wheeler
obviously.
and
No, because this only
Suarez.
goes through 2019.
Oh, okay. So not Suarez.
Oh, how about
Jeremy
Hell?
Hellickson.
Yeah.
Uh, there was Jerome Williams, right?
How about Aaron Harang?
Oh, dude, he was the
Sean.
number one in
I
2015.
know.
Yikes.
Um, like who else was getting starts for the Phillies, man? This is bad. Um,
2010,
wait, John
482.
Lieber. John Lieber.
Bieber.
Corey Lytle, Lidle.
Yeah, Corey Lytle. Hmm.
Pedro?
Nope. I guess
2009.
not.
Who were we missing in 2009?
Yeah, wait, where is it? 2009, number two starter and the number four
Oh, real
starter.
fast. Adam Morgan, they started as a starter.
Was Ethan Martin in the? No.
Hmm.
Who am I?
Oh,
Jay
Eichhoff?
Happ.
Oh, yeah. Eichhoff?
Yeah. Damn. These are some bad rotations.
Vince Velasquez, our Lord and Savior.
Yeah, the Greek god of control.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wait, did we get all of the 2016 rotation?
that's impressive. Yeah.
Um,
Wow, Nola
okay.
got shelled that year.
Oh, AJ Burnett.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Like
Um,
I want to fill in '09 because I feel like we should know that. Who was the number
who
two
were we missing? Who
starter?
got 31 starts for the Phillies in 2009?
Oh, Blanton.
Oh yeah.
Joe
Thank you.
Blanton, who was at the Savannah Bananas when I went the other week.
True.
That was
All right.
phenomenal, by the way. Okay, so 2013, they aren't quite literally the worst team ever at that point yet, but they're, starting to fall apart a little bit.
Sean O'Sullivan,
There's no way. No,
Tyler Cloyd.
no. Some of these are like pretty good seasons, but they're also not full starting seasons. Like here in
Oh, real
2005.
fast, Brandon Duckworth.
Yo, yeah.
Nice. We
2000
got all of
wait,
2003.
2004, who was their number one starter? It was 14 and 6. Am I an idiot? I thought their number one was Millwood.
Well, that maybe it's just in the order of start. Like that person made the
Oh, it
most
looks like it's in
starts.
the yeah, it looks like it's in the order of the number of starts he made. Yeah, I think you're right. Uh Wolf
Oh, real
Myers
fast. There was a guy named Garrett Stevenson
was
somewhere.
it
I think it's
PH
try
or B?
PH. Try PH.
Oh,
Nice.
there he is. Garrett
Um,
Stevenson. So I'm thinking of like random bullpen guys like El Pulpo.
El Pulpo.
Um Jose Mesa was never a starter, was he? Wasn't he just a closer?
I mean, I can't imagine. You could try it.
Nope. Okay. No, that was pretty stupid.
Um, I have no
I feel like it's the
like
same
do
guy in '04, '05, and '06. He
you
had
know,
a
isn't this
converted
so
reliever in '06.
uh, I mean, it wouldn't have been somebody in the maybe Ryan Madsen. Did they start him as a starter?
There's no way. Madsen. Oh,
Hey, that was one
wow.
of them.
I can't believe that was right. Uh 2005, you have another. No, I think this is a guy who got a starting job because he doesn't have a lot of relief appearances. Is there anybody obvious we're missing
Yo,
from
this is
like the
so
World
tough though. Like, dude,
Series
I have
team?
no idea who was on the Phillies in 1989. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, Chris
83.
Short. Chris Short.
No.
What? Wasn't he good?
I don't even know who Chris Short is, man.
All right. 1983. They went to the World Series. Who would have been
Yeah,
on that
that's the
team?
Wheeze kids.
J
In
Jim Cott.
83, this
Jim
guy,
Cott?
Jim Kai was a Philly.
Yeah, he was. No.
This guy, they're number two in 83 with a 2.37 ERA. It feels like we should be able to get that.
We could try generic name Williams, Jackson, Johnson. You know what I mean?
Smith, Johnson. This is our strategy when we don't know what we're doing anymore. We just start typing it in. Whoa, Mike
Yep, Mike
Jackson. Oh,
Jackson. Yep.
Danny Jackson. I should have got that. Damn it.
Jones.
Garrett G.I. Jones.
Williams, Wilson.
Oh, you already got Williams.
Uh,
Wilson, we can try. Williams, we got Jerome
we could
Williams.
always do Hispanic name. Hernandez, Gomez, Castillo, Lopez.
Lopez. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Hernandez, because Fausto Carmona was Roberto Hernandez.
Yeah. Yep. I was thinking that I thought Levon Hernandez, and I was like, no, that's not right. 2013.
There he
How
is.
how can we not get 2013?
Well, these guys only got 18 and 14 starts.
Yeah,
Also,
but
like I got to
still.
level with you, man. I was not watching a ton of Phillies in 2013.
Yeah, but like we were paying attention, not like
Yeah, we were.
close attention, but Brandon Duckworth. Uh, there's
Oh,
some big
wait,
holes.
Kyle Loesch, maybe?
No, he
No.
was a mid-season acquisition, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think they got him from the White Sox in
No, they got him from the
2007.
Cardinals. Freddie Garcia?
Nope.
No. Gavin
Definitely.
Floyd?
No.
No.
Yeah, if it wasn't one D, it's definitely not two Ds.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Robert Person might be my favorite name, by the way, so far.
I don't know. Omar Dahl.
Nelson Figueroa?
Wasn't he a reliever? Yeah.
Probably.
We are getting into like it's like dudes who are 1-14. Look at this guy. 1992, 1-14. That poor guy. Like, yeah, he had a
Oh, wait, 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 wait,
5.13
wait, wait, wait,
ERA,
wait,
but
wait, wait,
yeah.
wait. Uh, Andy Ashby, I think, was a Philly.
Oh, there you
Hey,
go.
there we go.
Filled a couple in, I think. Oh, we also got Mike Williams, exactly the way I drew it up.
Yeah, my dad played.
Yeah, I knew who that was. That's why I typed Williams.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
When they went
the
to the World
Phillies
Series in
are actually a
'83.
hard team for this because the 90s were a dark time for the Phillies, and so were the 2010s.
We can totally get more guys from the 2010s. Like 2018, 2019. That's not that long ago. Who would the Phillies have been rolling out there?
Yeah, 2019. Uh, was it retreads or were these like guys that they thought had
Probably
the
some of
juice?
both. I'm trying to think of like Phillies prospects. Brett Oberholzer?
No,
That
that
would
would
have
have
been
been a good
awesome.
one though. Yeah, yeah, 2018, 2019. I feel like
Oh, John Lannon?
who?
John Lannon, the Nationals guy?
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
that's one.
2013
533. All right. Oh
was
my gosh.
Tim Redding wasn't a Philly, was he?
I don't
Wasn't
think
he a
so. Maybe
Met?
we'll try it.
He was a Met and a National, I think. Yeah, I don't think so. Nope. Uh,
Chad Billingsley? I mean, I know he was a Philly, but
did Tommy Hunter get any starts for the Phillies? Somebody named Hunter did.
if somebody named Hunter got something.
Wait, I'm gonna. Where is it? Rich Hunter.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
Just the way I drew it up.
He was my second guess for Hunter. How much time we got? We got 3:43.
If we can get to
Actually,
135, I'll be happy.
I don't love our score. I don't know. I feel like
I
we could
know.
have done better.
I mean, there are totally going to be a lot of guys in like the 80s and 90s that I've never heard of. But
Yeah, but the 2018 and
2005 is going
2019.
to, yeah, 2005 is going to kill me, whoever that is.
Yeah, 2018 and 2019, we probably should be getting a
And
lot more
whoever the
than we are.
2013 and 2014 guys and 2015 guys are, we should get to.
Contreras never got any starts.
Try it.
Contreras, nope. Perez. I don't want to just guess names. That feels that's not cheating, but that feels like it's against the spirit of the game.
I'm trying to think, like, who was like a Phillies prospect and has never turned out? Jake Thompson?
I mean, Thompson was a good guess.
Philippe Almont?
He wasn't a starter, was he? No.
I don't know.
Uh,
Dude, this is so
who had a
bad.
6.99 ERA in 2015? That's funny.
Oh, dude, awesome.
That rules.
Awesome.
Like that dude was going out there and just getting shelled every night. Uh,
Yeah, like we're gonna be kicking ourselves when we get the answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is going to be part of the game, is us being mad that we didn't get. I think we got all the obvious ones at least, but
No,
we'll
because I
we'll
guarantee
find
you
out.
there's gonna be a guy or two that we're gonna be like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 6.02 ERA in 2017. That dude got 26 starts. I know the Phillies were bad, but jeez.
Like, was it like the corpse of somebody?
6.02 ERA, that's Aaron Nola in the fourth inning.
Yeah, yeah.
uh
This is so bad. Like, who were the Phillies? I'm trying to think if they drafted any pitchers early. Like Cornelius Randolph was no, Hazley, Mickey Moniak, Bryson Stott. Like who?
like Reese Hoskins and stuff too.
Like
Jesse Biddle never made the majors with
no,
the
he never made
Phillies.
it.
The Phillies, I feel like don't draft a lot of pitching like they kind of do
Well, for a
now.
while they just couldn't draft anybody.
Yeah,
Um,
drafting Larry Green Jr. All right, we got a minute.
this is bothering me.
Yeah, this is going to be bad. We're publicly owning ourselves here on the podcast, here on the baseball podcast. Dude, this is just dead air. I got nothing. I
I
don't know
know.
who any of these guys
I'm
are.
trying to think if they got like the corpse of any like Hall of Famer, like if like Gaylord Perry or somebody like made an appearance in the Phillies for a
Yeah,
year, like
in
that kind of thing.
2017, Gaylord
No, no,
Perry's
no.
like
Like back
'60.
because we have a lot of like 80s and 90s left open too. Like I'm trying to think if like like I know this didn't happen, if like Tom Seaver or somebody was like a Philly for a year, that kind of thing.
Like Jack Morris. No, I think it's more likely they're just trotting out like, oh yeah, it's
Just Drac.
Dave Howard. Yeah, he had a 7 ERA. He got shelled, but the Phillies lost
Yeah.
105 games. So who cares? All right, I'm
All
locking it
right.
in. Give up. Let's see who'd we miss.
Start at the top. Start at the top.
I have to watch an ad.
Ah. Well, real fast, real fast. Just while we're letting this ad play. You know
Okay.
what name popped into my head? I was writing an article. Well, no, I still am writing an article for the Australian Baseball League of
Okay.
I put it together an all-time team of modern ABL players, and then I started doing it
Okay.
for the old ABL, and I found a list of all the guys who played in those leagues.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this name, Chad Peranto.
I don't remember that name.
That's all right. That was just a
You know
name
what
where I
name
was
I
like,
do remember though, who I did not know was a Philly? Jerry Kuzman.
yeah, wait, let's like okay, like Dick Ruthven. I've heard that, but like no, Randy Lurch, Nino Espinosa. Like, stop me when you get to somebody you know.
Yeah.
Mark
Marty
Davis.
Bystrom, I've like heard that name.
Yeah, Mike Krukow, I know, but I didn't know he was a Philly. Kevin Gross,
Yeah.
John Denny.
One Mark Leiter we probably could have got. Mark Portugal, I think we could have got. Paul Bird. But
Okay,
dude,
Paul Bird, I should have
who the
gotten.
hell is Mike Mims?
Evidently, he was a Philly for a little while.
Yeah, he's
Sean Bosky, Kyle Abbott, Danny Cox. Like, who are
yeah,
these
who the hell are
people?
these
Ken
guys?
Howell, Pat
Oh,
Combs,
Bruce Chen.
Bruce Chen. We should have. Who is Dave Coggin?
Eh,
Terry Adams. Who are
Eric
these people?
Milton, I know who
Okay,
that
Eric
is.
Milton. We should have gotten Robinson
Robinson
Tejeda. I don't know
Tejeda.
who that is.
He was
All right, keep going.
I remember him from the Royals.
Keep going down. Keep going down.
Oh,
Oh,
Jonathan
Jonathan
Pettibone.
Pettibone. David
Nick Pav-
Buchanan.
Oh
David
my
Buchanan, we should have gotten. Oh,
no,
Nick Pavetta.
you know who we
Jake
should have
Arrieta,
gotten?
Zach Eflin, Ben Lively. Okay. All
Zach
right.
Eflin is the worst one by far.
Yo, Jake
Bad.
Arrieta is a bad one, too.
Yeah, Ben Lively, I mean, who cares? I would say our biggest misses are Jake Arrieta, Zach Eflin, and probably
and
David
Jerry
Buchanan.
Koosman, of
Dude, I
course.
watched David Buchanan pitch in spring training this year, and it was like a big meme. Like me and Sharky were down there, like, dude, David Buchanan, he got the start. No
Yeah,
way.
Jonathan Pettibone is a great name. Here, wait, can we look back at the names we got? Like, who's your favorite of the names we got?
Omar Dahl, it's not even close.
Wait, let me see. Let me see. I feel like yeah, Robert Person is really funny. Like,
No, Omar Dahl is funny because Omar Dahl also is only 1 year. Like, you had to know that team.
I literally remember him because I have a somewhere like a McDonald's Happy Meal Omar Dahl trading card
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
that's the one that I have of the great Amari
The
Telemaco. I have
great
the same
Omar
card.
Dahl.
I used to have Real Cormier.
Yeah, I feel like Corey Lytle was a pretty good one. Keep going
Dude,
down.
it's
Keep
no
going down.
Omar Dahl, man. Come on.
Keep going down. Go all the way down.
Like Adam Morgan was a pretty good one,
Yo,
like Jared Eichhoff.
Aaron Harang was a good
Yeah.
one.
What was my
um,
deepest cut? Was it Hellickson? I mean,
well, you got Rich Hunter, of course,
that's true, I did. I
and
got
Mike
Terry
Williams.
Mulholland. I mean, Terry Mulholland.
Yeah,
He was a bulldog. I should have
yeah.
got Danny Jackson, dude. That like the fact that we got that by accident is that's my failure because I
Wait a
know
minute.
who
Wait a minute.
Danny
Wait a minute.
Jackson is.
Brandon Duckworth is the best name.
No, it's not better than Omar Dahl, dude. Come on, don't lie to me. What do you think this is? But you know what? How do I stop screen sharing? Look me in the eye and tell me Brandon Duckworth's better than Omar Dahl.
Can
Oh
I
wait.
show you something? Stay right
No,
there.
wait.
Stay right there.
Okay, guys, welcome to the Solo Baseball Podcast. We're here today talking about random Phillies starting pitchers. Omar Dahl obviously being the superior one. There it is.
Wait.
You can't really see it. You might have to turn off the background.
Yeah,
Look at this. You're about to get a look behind the curtain. This is some real Wizard of Oz material right now.
I know.
Look at
Let's
this.
see.
Isn't this fascinating, everybody? Oh, there it is.
You
The
see it?
Brandon Duckworth poster.
That is my, no, no, it's signed.
It is signed. It's a little hard to see, but I can see it now that you point to it.
This is like,
Also, Modell's RIP,
I
pour
know.
one out.
Yo, this is simultaneously one of my prized possessions and one of my most worthless possessions. Like, on the one hand, I love that I have a signed Brandon Duckworth poster from Modell's. On the other hand, I have tried to give this to multiple people and no one wanted
Yeah, dude.
it.
Yeah, it's the monkey's paw. This is
Yeah, like,
this is what I got. I have this on hand. I got my Eric
Is
O'Flaherty.
that Eric O'Flaherty?
That's Eric O'Flaherty.
Beautiful.
I also
Beautiful.
have a signed Dan Ugla card over here, but I've shown that on the podcast before. Speaking of, by the way, I think we've taken up more than enough time. This is like a
Yeah, I want to go to
4 hour
bed.
podcast.
Yeah, I want to
So,
go to bed.
guys, you know what? From the bottom of my heart, from Kevin Long's heart, okay, from the heart inside of my heart, okay, the one that's going to grow 10 sizes plus two on Christmas, okay. I want to say thank you. Okay. Thank you for bearing with us. And I also have a message from a special friend of ours, but I'd like to let Ethan present it this time because we have a special. He's not a guest on the podcast yet, but you know what? He's very dear to us, and he does have a
He will
message,
always he will always be a friend of the podcast.
and he wants to tell you that he will see you on the next episode of the baseball podcast. But Ethan, can you tell everybody who this special friend was? Could you maybe give his name, his rank?
His name is Dan Ugla.
Guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.